unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, nestled in the heart of Idaho's mountain wilderness, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Discover the difference in their premium beans, meticulously roasted to capture the essence of the mountains. Now, listeners of our podcast can get an exclusive 10% discount. Just use the promo code CREATIVITY at checkout. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. And just in the past few episodes, we've explored creativity with a renowned photographer in Milan, Italy, a Russian immigrant who's now a leading dietitian in Miami in gut-brain health, a pair of art instructors in Queensland, Australia, who are really starting a school, a business around art instruction. So we travel the world talking to creative practitioners about how they get inspired and how they organize ideas, and most of all, gaining the confidence and the connections to launch their work out into the world. And I'm so happy today to be stamping our creative passport in Southern California in Pasadena, where we're going to dive deep into the world of high-end event planning, innovative business strategies, even sustainability in marketing and event planning. My guest is Marley Majcher, the CEO of The Party Goddess. I love this title, Marley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. There's so many aspects that I could already comment on, just being in such good company from all these people from around the world. I want to travel now. So
Yes, and these are the people that you either A, bring into your events, or B, you're
yes,
hosting the events for,
yes,
depending on what level. So I can't wait to dive into all that. You've orchestrated events for A-list celebrities from Gwyneth Paltrow to Snoop Dogg. What a
yes,
range there.
yes.
But all,
It used to seem like Martha Stewart to Snoop Dogg was a range, right? And
yes,
now
yes,
they're like the fastest friends. So
right.
the ranges are being blurred every
Yes,
day.
and Snoop Dogg is a children's author and a Sesame Street star is starting to come back around. I'm like, not sure how this happened.
Yes, no comment on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, I love it. But as that, you're also an entrepreneur yourself, and you
yes,
even help mentor and
yes,
teach other entrepreneurs. So we're definitely going to dive into that. And I just
yes.
want to tease folks, stay tuned throughout the episode because we're also going to go into agriculture and say yes to sheep. So you think, yeah, we don't have enough to talk about, Marley. We're going to just, like you said before, we're going to roam all the topics and see what we come up with.
I'm worried your listeners are going to be bored. That's what I'm scared
Yeah,
of.
don't worry.
Yeah. They're going to be like, oh, my hair is on fire. I can't
Well,
listen to any more of
we
this.
do have the creative short fuses and short term memory and short, attention spans.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we're going to have some fun. So
Good.
let's start with the Party Goddess.
Okay.
Really, and in the realm of creativity and
Yes.
innovation, everything you're doing in event planning, you like to think, hey, we're throwing a party, but there's so much more to it these days to really design the experience, isn't there?
Yes. Yes. There's so much more to it. And the reason that there's so much more to it is for the classic reason that everybody is quoting for the problems of the world, which is social media, right? So first, it used to be, oh, our clients have been there, seen that. And that was the big thing. Like when you do the pitch to the celebrity's manager, their assistant or something, you'd be like, we've already seen that. We've already seen that. So you're topping yourself, but you're topping yourself like in a group of people who had experienced events at a very high level. Now, guess what? They don't have had to experience events at a very high level. They just need to have seen them on TikTok.
Mhm.
And then it's, I want that and that. And in the middle was, oh, hey, listen, the bride's coming to you with, I saw this on Pinterest. And then you are recreating the Pinterest board. But now all of the photos and images and everything are accessible. So now it's bring me this. And I just saw this TikTok video that's 30 seconds with the music reel in the back. So it's now not just bring me this visual, but I want to feel this way, how I felt watching the video on TikTok. And so it's like all of your senses now need to be engaged at such a higher level. And that you got to dig deep for that. And
Mhm.
it's not always easy, but it's possible if you've got your
Yes.
kind of creative process.
And like any creative industry and market, highly competitive, I'm sure.
Very.
And how do you then find your brand, your signature approach? People say, it's one thing, bring me this, but it's another,
Yeah.
I'm going to get Marley because
Yeah.
she's going to do it this way.
That's actually an easy question to answer because I, for so long, so growing up in Pasadena, might as well be Connecticut as far as I describe to people. It feels like a very small town. It is very conservative for the most part. Yes, it's changed a lot. And I'm not talking politics. I'm just talking about everybody knows everybody. Everybody goes to this private school and that private school, and it's just this little bubble, right? And so I spent the vast majority of my life, I started in the restaurant business in Pasadena. So again, you know a lot of people and you come across a lot of people and everybody has something to say. And you're always minding your P's and Q's. And when I was in the restaurant business, my family, they were my partners. So I had essentially like a boss that I had to walk the walk and talk the talk about the brand of the restaurant and the catering company. And it wasn't until I branched out on my own totally for the Party Goddess, which came about at the absolute lowest point in my life, because here I was getting a divorce. I had a 1-year-old child. I had just had this really bad skiing accident. Talk about a hot mess. My mess was on fire.
Mhm.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, my dad's, listen, you love the events. Why don't you just do the events? And I thought, okay. But I needed to come up with a name. And I was just like, I didn't want it just to be my name. First of all, nobody can pronounce my name. So I was like, what is this going to be? But remember, I was at a really low point. So I thought, okay, what's the biggest thing I could think of? Like a deity of something. I was just like, frick it, I'm going to call it the Party Goddess because that was as big as I could think. It was laughable to me even at the time. And I remember I went to my first industry event and somebody introduced me and they're like, and this was the very first time like my company name was said out loud. And they were like, oh, she's got this company called the Party Goddess. And I can just feel it standing with that little group of people where they're like, the Party Goddess, like, and I just remember thinking, I'm going to freaking eat you for lunch. I just set but at that point, I realized, listen, I was at such a turning point. I was like, my life hadn't worked the way when it was supposed to be perfect. That's exhausting. I was trying to have the white picket fence. I never even liked white picket fences. And so I was trying to fit into this mold. And then finally, when you're at rock bottom, you're like, I don't even care at this point. I have nowhere lower to go. When I started calling myself the Party Goddess and I was like, okay, that's a sassafras name anyway. I started branching out like in my own kind of way. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do things differently. And I'm going to, if I want to have some ridiculous, like we would do a giant gingerbread house and then we would have the regular Santa and then we would have the hot Santa's helper. And I remember my parents going to that and they were like, my mom especially. But guess what? We had a photographer. Can I please tell you, every 80-year-old woman at that party was sitting on Santa's lap, had it as their Christmas card photo with the hot elf and the whole thing. And it was like, oh, maybe she is onto something because I was always friends with like my parents' friends as well as young people. And I always did things my way. And what started to resonate, I think, with people it was like, so what if you're like 75? You're not dead, presumably. If you accepted the invitation to go to my party, which you know is going to be weird, not weird like people are snorting cocaine, it's going to be creative. And if you want to go, then you know you're up for the experience. All my mom's friends were always the ones that wanted to go and were the ones in the photos. And my mom just couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, because I've tapped into something. For 4 hours, we all want to have fun. We all want to forget that our grandchildren are like addicted to crack. We want to
Yeah.
forget that the house is getting foreclosed upon. And when I started doing things just because they seemed like a good idea to me was when the whole picture changed and things really took off.
Fantastic. That I'm going for memorable and different and unique. I haven't seen it before, all
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Right.
I love the behind the scenes Santa story. Any other great moments, I'll say BTS moments that you can
Well,
share
I
with
mean,
us?
where do you want to start? There was one for a very high profile client in a very wealthy part of San Diego. I won't say exactly where, but they were just building this new house, and this house had been under construction forever. And it was the same thing. What else can you show me? And first she wanted Cavalia brought in, the horse show. And it was like, okay, I can bring in Cavalia. They're going to have to fly in. They were in Spain, I think, at the time. And then they had to be in quarantine for 9 days. And then they had to be training at the facility where this house, which was also possible. But I was like, you're going to be paying for all this, waiting in quarantine, the trainers coming from Spain, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, let's do something simpler. And my favorite was that the simpler version was having trained dolphins in the brand new Olympic size swimming pool. And I was like, again, no problem. I've got the trained dolphins I said, PETA is going to eat us alive, just so you know. And I think you or your husband or somebody's like on the board of PETA. So I will do it. You're going to have the brand new pool drained. The dolphins are going to be being trained in there, like on and on. And it just, after when you step back and you head home for the day and you realize, I just had a conversation about dolphins swimming to music in a new pool. Like, where am I?
Yeah.
What
Yes.
planet am I on? And
This goes beyond Dear Diary.
it way beyond. And then you just want to be like, no one would believe this. And now that's how it all goes these days, is people are like, no way. And it's like my best friends, if they didn't know me, they would totally think I'm lying. I'm like, I am not lying. Like, and then you learn all these other things about how the celebrities are, the paparazzi and all this stuff. And then you realize the freaking celebrities reps are the ones calling the paparazzi.
They want it. Yeah.
They want it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I signed this confidentiality agreement that's like the Library of Congress could have it so long. And then I catch the manager like, okay, yeah, the cake's coming out now. And wait, huh? I had no
Yes.
idea how the world works on that level. But it's just a whole other underground way of operating.
Yes. And you're touching on something that's in almost every creative endeavor. There's the coming up with the idea,
Yeah.
which seems hard, but ideas, they're out there.
Yeah.
But executing the ideas, and I
Oh
think
my
about, you
gosh.
talk about behind the scenes. I want to
Yeah.
hear about all the cogs of caterers and photographers and DJs and gosh knows what, dolphin traders. But you've got to teach the people holding the tray,
Right.
okay, this rock star is going to come by. You're not, ask them to sing a chorus of your favorite song.
Right. And
Give them the hors d'oeuvre and then walk away.
yes. And it's funny that you bring that up, because that used to be like our biggest concern, right? Like in LA, everybody's an actor. And so they're actors and they're waiters, and that's who's going to
Well, and
serve.
they're looking for a
the-
break,
they're
so
100%.
Pierce
They're looking for
Brosnan, can you give me an
absolutely. Yeah.
appointment next
Hi.
Thursday?
Yeah. And so that used to be the thing. Like, you would make them sign the vendor agreements and that they're non-solicitation and all this kind of stuff. But then what happens is it just morphs so much from that point, where these days it's not only do I need to get, okay, the actors to do that and not take photos, I need to also make sure that I'm going to collect their phones at the beginning of the shift so that they can't. And what if they gave me one phone? I can't assume that they don't have another phone, right? Because the photos can get leaked, et cetera. And then it's put all the contracts in another name, because the rental companies, everybody's got somebody on the inside who sells the story. You can't plan a tent for Pierce Brosnan and not have be like, whoop, okay, now we know where it's going to be. It's got to be in a totally different name. And then you get the layers of, okay, top this. Top this means you bring in the fire dancers from Hawaii, or you bring in, and it's that level of logistics that it's like, you think of timelines where they really do boil down to, it's 7:02, fire dancers go through front door, wait for this person. And then the next layer, and then you have these very high profile entertainers, one of whom I can think of off the top of my head, who notoriously gets stoned. And one of my jobs was basically like, I feel like it was trailing this guy, because he was notoriously shy. That's probably why he smoked pot before he performed. When he performs in these small venues, it was a little bit, and I was just like, oh my God.
Too close, too intimate. Yeah.
But then you got to keep the event moving. So I'm like, where is he? And I know he needs to be stoned, but he can't be that stoned, because he's not going to perform. So it's just all those other things. And then you go, wait, and by the way, did we get his insurance like certificate? And wait a second, did the fire dancers, did we get their fire so that the fire marshal would sign off.
Yes.
So it isn't even just the things of the events that you think of. It's the stuff that now legally we have to do to protect ourselves and to protect our clients, because that's a huge reality.
Yeah. You don't want somebody falling off the stage or the tablecloths on fire.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which leads to protecting the economics of the event
Yes.
too. I love that you have a book that's titled, "But Are You Making Any Money?"
Yeah.
This is all well and good. It's all
Yeah.
fun and games. Did we walk away losing money or did we actually have a profit on this gig?
And do we have a plan of a profit in the future? And the title, But Are You Making Any Money, came from a conversation I had with my dad where I was once again pontificating about some amazing client or project. And I was like, oh, and this and that. My dad wouldn't know Britney Spears out of like a crowd of one.
Mhm.
But he was just like, okay. And he's listening. I could see his eyes. And I thought, uh-oh. And he just said, but are you making any money? And I had gone to business school. This is not as if I did not know, well, like how to run a business or how to start a business. And so I ended up writing that book after that conversation, really to solve my own problems, because I thought I don't have a clear path. Even though I know how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement, I don't have a clear path to price. And how do you price? Do you mark up martinis or do you not? Do you mark up labor or not? Is that not being transparent? Like, how does all that work? And then that's kind of what transitioned me into this component of mentoring and stuff with the Profit Goddess, because I realized there were a lot of other people out there, especially creatives and especially women, who might have been very successful lawyers, but they were not confident to start their own business and know that they have their costs and their pricing organized.
Mhm. And I guess as long as we're thinking about all the components and contractors and contributors, there's people I'm sure lined up. But it's I'm ready. I'm a big time photographer now. I want to
Right,
get in on. I'm a great DJ. I'm a great
right,
event planner. I can bring you
right,
the tents.
right.
What do you look for in those contributors?
It's pretty simple. One, we look for an edge. So it's if I were a publicist, I'd look for the hook. It's to me, it's the edge. So we get constantly photographers, DJs, entertainers, they all are emailing. Hi, we want to work with you on this. Hi, we want to collaborate. Hi. So first thing I look at is what does their work look like? So my assistant will look at it and say 95% of it doesn't stand out, right? And then there's the kind of 5% that you'll be like, oh, you are going to want to take a look. This is like right up your alley, where it's something really different. So that's one thing is, why do I care? What makes them different? Number one. But then it gets into some other things like some basic stuff, like how easy are they to deal with, right?
Mm,
Because they can be the most creative, fabulous person in the world. And you having a show on creativity, I'm sure can relate to this. But if they are just a nightmare, right? Because they're too disorganized or they don't show up or they're not on time or, oh, whoops, I didn't listen to that message. Like I was just in an event like a week and a half ago. And I was like, this seems a little bit rocky. I wasn't doing the event, but the girl who was part of the quote entertainment piece or something, I was just like, this seems a little like herky jerky. I come to find out later, she hadn't read the messages for 3 days of the person who booked her. She's, oh, sorry. She was supposed to have another person. She didn't know that. And then all the excuses start. And I could write this script 1,000 times. And she had a very specialized service that she performed. And by the way, she was really good at it. And I thought this is a total shame because she is never going to get off the diving board with this
mm,
because there's not maybe like a client, like the client might book her, but an event planner is never going to be able to deal with that because
yes.
it's just thank you next. If you're not checking your messages for 3 days, I know for sure you don't have insurance. I know for sure I'm going to be chasing you for everything, your W-9 and all this other stuff. So it does build into what's the work like, and then can they actually respond and can they actually deliver? And then it goes to so that's like the logistical component. And then the third one is chemistry. I've worked with amazing photographers and amazing creative people. And there are just some that they might not be the absolute most creative that I would want to work with. They might be just a little bit down. I'm not saying much down, but they might be just a little bit down. But we get along so well, and they're chill, and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm running 5 minutes late. I'm at Starbucks. Do you want something?" That makes a big difference. It's very small things or where they remember, "Hey, I remember you don't like to be shot in this kind of light." Or I remember you like to be all very simple, small things, but it really does boil down to chemistry. And it's like once your work kind of breaks through, and then we realize, okay, yes, you do follow up and the logistics are in order, then it goes down to, can you hang out? Because these events are very stressful, usually, and they can become a lot more stressful if you've got some flake who's not pulling their own weight.
Hmm. And ready to snap.
It,
Well, and in the context of, are you making any money? I'm reminded of the interviews that I've done where people go, yes, you're creative, but you're the CEO of your business. If you're
correct.
a guitar player, you're the CEO
Correct.
going up and playing on the stool for tips at the bar tonight.
Yes. Yes.
And you want to get your music on Spotify, then it's a business. Yeah.
It is. And then it's, if you want your music on Spotify, it still has to be, people think, oh, I don't have any costs, quote, to doing my
Yes,
business.
yes.
Like I'm a masseuse, I'm a nail person, I'm a music. You sure do have costs. You have to, the nail polish, the, like the cream for all these things might not seem like
Mhm.
that quote big a deal, but they all add up, and they're the reason why you go, I don't understand. I just made $1,000. Why don't I have $1,000 in my bank account? Because you had to Uber there. You had
I
to
was
have an
going to say
assistant
the
help you pack the car.
$5 a gallon
Right,
for
right,
the gig.
right. And so the book breaks all that down so that the solopreneur can be doing more of what they love and less of, most of us don't go and start our small business to say, I'm so excited to change toner in my printer.
Mhm.
You're doing it for every other reason, but somebody's got to change the toner in the printer.
Exactly. Let's look ahead and periscope out a little bit in the
Yeah.
future. Like so many creative industries, event
Yes.
planning is just incredible changes, and we're going to incorporate even more technology. People are going to keep raising the bar. It's
Hmm.
Super Bowl and Olympics every day now for you, I'm
Yep.
sure.
Yep.
And what do you see ahead? What can we get excited about?
I think we should. There's so much talk about AI being devastating to the creative industries and all this stuff. And I am a total tech junk. As creative as I am, I'm a total tech junkie as well. And I feel like people are really missing the boat as far as AI goes if they're afraid of it. I'm certainly somebody that would be massively affected, right? If supposedly AI takes over. Yet I'm using it every single day to be more profitable in my business, to be more productive, to have repetitive tasks done for me. And I think AI is going to be huge because it keeps getting smarter and smarter. I'm not saying there aren't tremendous things to worry about. There's no question there are. But if we use AI and say, hey, listen, my last event was really successful because, and we give all the different components, but I need to do another one for the same client. And we give the AI prompt that says what worked and what we're after now. How can you top it? Guess what? AI can churn out, if you give it some really good prompts, some amazing ideas. It might not execute it for you, but a creative person, that's all they need, right? Then I go, oh, wait a second. I'm doing Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, I could actually have somebody making chocolate and do it. You just take a spin on it based on one of those bullet points that comes through Chat GPT. So I think the creativity is going to explode just because of the ideas of AI. I think AI and virtual reality and all that are going to just keep exploding. So like where you have the dead Michael Jackson hologram playing, I think that's going to be way more. That's even going to start to be in, not tomorrow, but not that far out, where you have the dead grandfather giving the speech at the wedding. I hate to say it like that, but I think there's
Yes.
going to be a lot of things, or the family pet who is now present at the, and to me that's all super exciting. And I think I've been in this industry now for decades, and sometimes I hear people my age or older, oh, the competition is undercutting us, the competition. And I'm like, you guys are missing the boat. The competition doesn't have the experience we have, right? Like we have the breadth of knowledge of knowing you don't have that fire certificate. That fire marshal walks in. I don't care if you have $500,000 worth of fabulosity planned. You're not going to have a party.
Mhm.
There's a place everywhere for each person who wants a seat at the table. And I think the key thing is to be like, what's coming? Okay. AI, technology, efficiency, speed. The clients want things fast. They want to be responded to quickly. Excuse me. They want visuals quickly. They want paint the picture, paint it fast, get it in on the budget. And I think where the real opportunity, especially with luxury events or charging a premium, is to be able to deliver the proposal and all that stuff quickly. But then to be able to say, yes, I can execute this, paint the picture so that the client will pay more for it. Right. And then you are in a position to deliver that because you've pre-sold them. You've gotten them to feel what it's like to be in the event. And then they're like, I want that. And as artists, people, you make decisions based on emotion. You can charge a lot more money. Right.
Definitely.
And that to me is the super exciting path forward is there are a group of clients. I don't care how bad the economy is. I don't care what happens. There are people out there with 2 tons of money, whether you know it or not, who are going to want to pay for experiences. And that's what I deliver is experiences, start to finish. You walk in being like, oh my God, I had the worst day at work, blah, blah, blah. And you, within 15 minutes, you're like, okay, was that just a donkey I saw dressed as a reindeer? And was that woman 80 years old? And then you, for, as I say, a few hours, you're transported and you say, this was magic. And that's my job, is to create magic for a finite amount of time.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Folks, I'm talking with Marley Majcher, the party goddess, and it's at thepartygoddess.com. So I promised listeners that if they stayed tuned, we would definitely talk about the evolution. Say yes to sheep. So let's merge into your love of animals and agriculture, it's sustainability, it's all that. Tell us about this venture.
So I feel like it's such an overused thing that like, oh, I'm in California and I'm talking about sustainability and I just want to raise my hand to say I am not the like hippy dippy poster child of all that stuff because you'll be very easy to out me that I would fly private at the moment anybody offered it to me. Okay, so I'm guilty, but I despise waste. And so one of the things, like even in our event planning company, before it was fashionable, it's if we could take stuff that we could recycle and turn into props, and we build a lot of our own props. That's what I wanted to do because I thought that's cooler. It's more of a creative challenge, etc. So then fast forward, I go to the Faroe Islands really because I heard they had the oldest breed or whatever of sheep that were almost 1,000 years old. I go and I find out that the Faroe Islands, they shear the sheep and there's no real market for the wool because wool has taken a big downturn because technology, we ski in synthetic fabrics and you don't need the wool sweater and all that stuff. And I find out, wait a second, what do you mean you're not using this wool? And they burn it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I end up now going down this path to use the lowest grades of wool or wool that would quite frankly be in a landfill or burned. And I've got 5 potential revenue streams that involve soil improvement and erosion and fire prevention. And so that's where Say Yes to Sheep came. And that's what I'm working on a ranch I'm building in San Ynez. So it's about as random as it comes. The only connection I can make is remember how Martha Stewart started out? She was a gardener and she had animals and stuff. Think of it that way. Like my
Mhm.
sheep, I'm making better soil to grow better tomatoes for your event. So that's
Yeah.
the segue.
But like you, many creative people need that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a side hustle. I'm not talking
No.
about that, but it's a way to express your creativity in some new and different way. And does it come back around? Do you find yourself recharged in your
Oh,
battery? Yeah.
and remember, it's the exact sheep and
Yes. Couldn't
fire and
be
soil
further away.
couldn't
Yeah.
be further away because guess what? You're outside versus inside at a computer on Zoom meetings pitching your client, right? You're outside fabricating wool and are the animals sick? Are the like, oh, what's the micron count of this? Is this going to improve the soil? Will my tomatoes grow faster with this batch or with this batch? Why? What are the chemical? It's a completely talk about a rude awakening as far as learning curves. It's been a very rude awakening. But what am I going to do? You get bored otherwise. Well, at
Mhm.
least I do. I think we always need something. But it's really funny to me how I now can see the wool about to make its way into events. Because now I'm like, oh, this would be really cool.
Maybe we
This
can.
would solve a problem. So it all comes full circle.
Oh, so fun. Thanks for sharing that. My guest has been Marley Major, the party goddess. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story, your journey, all these creative insights, and the behind the scenes, which are always fun.
Thank you. I
The
love doing
the
it. Thank you
stuff
for
that we
having
all
me.
read about in Us Weekly, but,
Right.
and you say, "Oh, well, they had to have a helicopter
Ex-
photograph the graduation party that we couldn't
Right.
miss."
And the drones and all that other stuff. That's a whole other podcast. It's all about the drones and security and stuff. But
Yeah,
this was really great. Thank you for having me and thank you for doing what you're doing.
it's inspiring to hear your stories and how you're blending the business, the art, the
Yes.
creativity, and now in your side work for sheep, the
Yes.
sustainability too. It's all great work, and we appreciate hearing the stories.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We look forward to following your work. And listeners, big thanks to our sponsor as well. White Cloud Coffee Roasters help support this podcast. You can upgrade your coffee experience. We've been talking about experience today. So upgrade your own coffee experience and find the perfect gift this season. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com. You can enjoy a 10% off with the promo code CREATIVITY when you visit the website, whitecloudcoffee.com. And of course, listeners, keep following us and keep listening to the podcast. We'll continue our creative journeys all over the world. You'll never know where we'll stop next to get inspired and learn how to organize ideas. And this confidence and connections, we'll learn about that the next time. And we'll keep unlocking your world of creativity.